Hi, my name's Ricky, and I'm the pastor and lead elder here at Living Word Community Church in Basildon. Now, I've been here for 3 years. The church has been here for over 30. And what we've started to see is God has been doing some really, truly amazing things. We have seen people saved, we've seen people healed, we've seen people restored, we've seen baptisms and dedications. And it's really good to see how God is moving in the modern day world in this town, our home. Now, we also believe that the next step on our journey is to buy a building. We have been renting a building for a great number of years now, and we believe that the next step forward is we need this additional tool to help us reach our community. And that's exactly what it is. It's just a tool that will be used by the ministry. We understand that the church is the people and that we are the body of Christ. Now, we as elders and wives today have taken some time out really to share that vision with anybody who's interested, really. So, of course, we are hoping that everybody from the church here will be watching, and possibly and hopefully our ministry partners around the country and around the globe too. We want to share heart with you of why we're wanting to buy this building, and when we do, what we're planning to do with it. So I'm going to hand over first to Tim. Tim used to lead the church before me, and a few years ago now, he had a prophetic dream about this particular location and why God would want us here. And then we're going to go back to the elders and wives, and they're going to start talking to us about how they feel and what they think God has been sharing with them about buying this facility. We'll finish with a time of me actually showing you around the building and giving you some idea about the types of things that we will be able to do once we have a tool like this. It's great to have you with us. God bless you, and over to you, Tim.
Looking around this car park, I want you to imagine a well. Not a quaint small well with a little roof, rather a great vast well with hundreds of people surrounding it, all pressing in to gain water. Images of irrigation and water have filled the spiritual revelation of Christians living in this area for many years. But I share this image of a well with you because I woke on Palm Sunday in 2017 with that very image. A vast well right here. Now, I dream a lot, and over the years I've come to know the difference between those dreams I have when I've had too much cheese the day before and those rare occasions when God has communicated to me in this way. With these images came specific questions. Will you serve at the well? Will you dig this well? Will you offer a cup of water in this well? Will you unblock the well? Will you go into the dry places and bring water to those who need it? Will you offer a cup of water when it's your last? Will you serve at this well? Will you make this place a place of healing, a place of restoration, a place of peace? Now, 7 years earlier, I'd shared with the church a revelation I'd had whilst I was on retreat. How in the story in Genesis 26 of Isaac's journey from Gerar to Beersheba, he'd been digging wells in constant search of a place to settle. And how that reflected our own journey as God's people, as Living Word Community Church, as we've gone from place to place. Now, Beersheba means well of promise. And it's always right to question how we apply revelation. This story comes focused on Israel's journey as part of the people of God. But it can also challenge you individually about your journey, about your need to dig into God's purposes for your own life. But I believe this image of the well here I had in that dream and the revelation of Genesis 26 were from God and guide our church community as we seek to arrive at our well of promise so that we can serve this community and do that together. I'm praying that you will dig with me and that we'll share this opportunity together.
Hi, No, brilliant. Thank you so much, Tim. It's so clear, isn't it, that we are heading on a journey, and we are going to be heading on this journey together, but it comes from a place of the prophetic. And actually, I'm quite a new guy still in the church. I've only been here for 3 years, and I know some of you have been here a lot longer than me and have known what God is calling us to do. And actually, it's really hard, isn't it, when you have to be patient. But this could be, and we believe is, our season. So we as elders and wives wanted to come to you really and start to talk to you about the practical and the pragmatic as well as the prophetic steps that we're going to have to take as we look to buy this site on Honeypot Lane for the glory of God. So I know each one of my friends here wants to say something to you. And Chrissy, I think you're going to go first.
Yeah. In Matthew, Jesus teaches the disciples how to pray. And some of the words he says is, your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Our prayer is, your kingdom come in Basildon too, Lord. God's kingdom is his rule and reign. He is the king of the kingdom. He's given us resources that we can co-work with him. He asks us at times to give those resources back to him for his work. Think of how you can bring your resources to him. To do this, we need a resource of our own. We need a building where we can reach the lost, the hurting, and those without hope. Our prayer for Basildon is that Basildon will be known as a place where the King reigns, not as a place that's used in a derogatory term as it has been for so many years. And to do this, we want to see Jesus lifted high. We want to see a banner that flies across this town. His banner across this town is what we need. We're asking you to join with us as his co-workers.
We sing a song, don't we, that has these words. You are here, moving in this place. We worship you, waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. God calls us to work with him, to be that light in the darkness. In Micah 6, he calls to us to be acting justly, loving mercy and walking humbly before God. And over the last decades, we have sought as his community of God's people to reach out and to be the good news of Jesus, to be the light in the darkness. There's an important difference that we must recognize between a kind of false humility and modesty. And I think it's important to recognize that in our community, there have been people who've been working with humility, pioneering and supporting projects within Basildon to respond to this call of God on our lives. Food to the hungry through 58-7, comfort to the sick through chaplaincy, counsel to the weary through pastoral care, good news of hope of Jesus to children and youth through the schools team and youth work and schools pastors, respite for the poor through Christians Against Poverty, a place of safety for those on the edges of society through the drop-in, friendship on the streets for the vulnerable through street pastors.
For a long time, we believed, with many others, that we could do these things without a place, without our own base. And we were first called to Basildon over 30 years ago. We've met in different places and we've reached out across the town. We've led various projects and all the time using the legacy that we had from South Green. However, in the last 5 to 10 years, I've seen that change. People associate place with, I can get help here. I think particularly of St Andrews, with whom we work with Christians Against Poverty, their food ministry means that people know that there is somewhere to go and help will be provided. And that help has been given and inspired by the love of Jesus. This opportunity to buy the building at Honeypot Lane is the best we've had to find a place for us, so that LWCC can continue giving the help, but also increase what we do, inspired by the love of Jesus. and continuing with that legacy from the first call to Basildon.
So Sue and I firmly believe that as we partner together with you in response to the move of God's Spirit, the facilities at Honeypot Lane can be a completely new way to be that source of light in the darkness for those who are lost.
You know, in World War II, when I was still a child, this nation was in crisis. We were at risk of having insufficient food to survive. And the government responded to this, and indeed the nation responded to it, and they put up posters encouraging the population to dig for victory. And my dad, as one of the many who responded to that call, in fact, dug up our lawn and grew vegetables before he was called up to go into the army. Dig for victory. In 2 Kings 3, verse 16, there's a story of 3 kings who formed an alliance and to fight the Moabites, and they got bogged down in the desert and were in danger of dying of thirst. But the prophet Elisha stepped in, and he was asked to seek God's voice in this particular situation. And the word that he brought was this. He said, dig ditches across this valley, and although there won't be any rain, God will fill them with water. And you know, in the morning, those ditches were full of water, and that army that was bogged down won a great victory as a result. You know, I think God is asking us to dig too. It requires everybody to respond perhaps in faith, to dig into all the resources that God gives us in order to achieve his purposes. After all, they've been loaned to us. They don't belong to us. So we're asking you to join with us in this and to develop with us the resources that God needs in order to bring such an important message to Basildon. Remember, the battle we face is a spiritual one, but it's God's battle. He wants Basildon as part of his kingdom. And to imitate a wartime metaphor, the Battle of Basildon is about to begin.
So the moment we have all been waiting for, the grand tour of the building. And as I show you around, I just want to share a couple of things from our heart on what we'll be using this building for. Now, this building is situated on Honeypot Lane, which is right in the centre of Basildon town centre. It's not something we've done before. We've not been in the town centre before. But there's an awful lot of things around here. There's a lot of schools around here. There's an awful lot of houses. And obviously we have the town centre too. Now, Honeypot Lane, the site as it stands, has already been used in the community, and one of the things we want to do is obviously rescue it for those reasons. So this room here is like a cafeteria area, a lounge area, and this room is already used to feed the homeless twice a week. There's another night where it's used for a drop-in for people who are lonely and needing some companionship, and you'll see we have a fully fitted kitchen. Now, of course, some of these things will need to be updated, and we know that going in, but this room really does lend itself to possibly a bit more than we're already using it for. For example, I've contacted a local school and asked them, how could we best serve them? And it is a special educational needs school. And one of the things they've asked us to do is to provide a facility where parents on their way to pick up the children can come and just be, and maybe have somebody to talk to, maybe do some crafts, maybe just have a cup of tea or a cup of coffee with us. And I think that would be a brilliant way of serving our community. Of course, not to mention, we could use this room for youth, we could use it to bake cakes, we could use it for coffee mornings, we could use it for all sorts of other things. So into the next rooms. As you would come in through this facility, obviously we have a few outdated things like loos that would all need to be updated. And actually, I'm not going to take you into the main hall first, and you can see all of our markings on the floor. And we're going to first take you down to this room, which is like the second hall. They call it the Leslie Hall. Now, this is an amazing room that I think lends itself, we might need to get the door fixed, and this room lends itself really to work in the community. I think it needs maybe its own entrance, its own exit, maybe its own kitchen. There's a room back here where we could put a kitchen in. And for example, we already know that this room will be used for the winter night shelter again, so when the homeless have got nowhere to go in the winter, this room would be perfect to put some bunks in, some sleeping bags, some heating, some tea and coffee making facilities. We also know actually that the church who currently meet in this building, from whom we're buying it from, will use this as their chapel for at least a few months whilst they're doing their building work. I think this room lends itself to a youth hall when it's not being used for the homeless. I think it could be used for other community projects and outreach where people might want to come into it. As we head back out this way, I'm not going to be crude, but these are the lavatories on the right and a few cupboards. Now those are unfortunately falling apart, so they are going to need to be fully refurbished and fully replaced. And then we have what I think is quite exciting. We have these 3 rooms to the side. Now, let me be really clear. We are probably planning to renovate the whole site, and you can see reasons why here, you know, huge cracks in the wall. Plus the layout is not possibly the best for what we want to use it for. But as an example, these 3 rooms here, I don't think I can get into them today, no. But I think that one of these rooms lend themselves to a laundry room, another room may lend itself to a computer room, and another one still maybe a shower room, so that when we do bring those in that are maybe struggling with stuff in their home, or they don't have a home, that they've got somewhere where they can come and have a wash, they can wash their clothes, maybe even a computer room where we might be able to help them get their benefits sorted and things like that. As we head in to the main auditorium, this is of course the room that you see on the live stream. It's a pretty big room. It's a pretty iffy layout, and certainly the decor would need to be updated in this room. And of course, this is the room that we would use for our Sunday morning service. But beyond that, this is used by churches together for their meetings. This room can be used for the youth on a Friday night. This room is one of the rooms that gets lent out to the community for their own projects. So the people in this town who need a hall or a building for hire, this is the room that they would choose to use. Now, of course, behind the stage area there, we do have a little bit extra space, so we plan to open that up to give us a slightly bigger hall here. And yeah, just let us show you around. I quite like the idea of that room at the back there. There's a tiny little cupboard hole at the back, but maybe making that into a safe creche area where we can have an additional speaker and camera in there. Not camera, sorry, a screen in there, so that any kind of nursing mums or anyone that just needs a little bit of privacy could be able to go in there. And obviously we would have the whole thing renovated. As we head through now, the building gets bigger. It's a building that keeps on giving. And again, very, very sad that the layout isn't perfect just yet. But these are a couple of classrooms hidden outside of the main hall. And they're ready to go, really, in terms of being able to use. But we might need to put in a couple of fire escapes. It would be excellent if we're going to use these for children, to have a few, obviously, child-safe loos for them to use. And then actually, as you go through that door and behind the stage is the part of the site that the other church will retain long term. Now we have some, this is the clothes that we give to the homeless on a Wednesday. But as we go around the building, this building lends itself to serving our community. It lends itself to serving the church, of course, and the ministry. We want to see the glory of God come here. We know that we can serve the young people and the children. Again, I can just imagine all of the tables being laid out here for those lunches that we have every month, for the bring and share brunches that we have every month, for Messy Church. Can you imagine we could start doing Messy Church every month or even every week here? It gives us so much opportunity. So this is Honeypot Lane. I hope that answers some of your questions if you haven't been here. But yeah, welcome to the new Living Word Community Church.